Hello, hello. This is Jonathan, and you're listening to the Johnny Talks podcast, the place where we help you achieve your financial goals. Welcome, dear friend, to the second episode of the Johnny Talks podcast. And I'm very excited to have my very first guest on the show, Virginia Elder. Virginia will share with us her story of how she got into a massive debt of $80,000. Yes, you heard that right. $80,000. We will go through why and how she got into this huge amount of debt, how she experienced the situation, and how she got out of it luckily, and how she now lives a happy, healthy, abundant life. This episode is definitely for you if you're facing some kind of debt at the moment, or maybe you have a friend, a family member, an acquaintance that is facing debt. Make sure you share the story with them, because I'm pretty convinced that by listening to Virginia's story, they will hear the story of a mother who didn't want this impressive debt to impact on the future of her children. Worked out a plan, stick to it, and get out of it. That story will inspire them to take action. And without further ado, let's hear it. Hello, Virginia. How are you today?
I'm great. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. We are welcome to the show, and I'm excited to have you here on the Johnny Talks podcast. And to hear your story that you will tell us today. Just a little word for our listeners. So Virginia Elder and we met through a Facebook group of personal finance bloggers, content producers, etc. So we get in touch as she helped me write an article, which I will link in the show notes. And then beyond that collaboration, we started to talk a bit more. We had a Skype call, and then we got to know each other better, and we shared our personal finance stories. And the thing is, what came out of this conversation is that Virginia has an incredible personal finance story about getting into massive debt, but luckily as well for us, she get out of that massive debt. And we agreed that it was a very good idea to have as an interview in the show and to share with our audience and maybe to help anyone that could face this situation. So, I think without further ado, Virginia, are you ready?
Yes. I'm going to share all the details.
Okay, fantastic. That's what we want. And so let's start with the start. So you were living a perfectly happy life, and then debt crushed you. What happened?
Absolutely. We got married young. We did well. We both had great jobs. We managed our finances well. We moved a couple times.
So you have you live with your husband and kids, right?
Yes. At this point now, I've been married 14 years, and I have two lovely young children. The rock bottom moment really snuck up on us because of a compounding effect of large, unplanned, unexpected decisions happening in a short, quick period of time. And it just really threw us off. We under-anticipated the expense of having children. We had just recently bought a new house. We had a vehicle basically crash and burn on us. So at that point, we didn't really know what else to do. We went and financed a vehicle.
So everything happened kind of in the same
quickly.
moments, the car, the kids.
Yes. And on top of all that, the biggest factor of this all was we volunteered to help my mother out with a very significant life-changing situation she was going through.
Okay.
And it was one of those things where I led with my heart. We are all emotional beings.
Of course.
And it's very important for us to be in tune with our emotions, right?
Absolutely.
But this was one of those things where I let that take over. And I told her, you know what? We'll do whatever it takes. We'll be by your side.
Of
we'll
course.
help
It's
you
your
through.
mom.
Exactly. And this life-changing expense for her ended up really affecting us.
So if I So you have a lot of life-changing events at once, and then on top of that, you have your mom's situation that changed. How?
Exactly.
What was the biggest change? Is it your mom or the rest, the car, the kids, the?
Yes. So my mom's, it was actually her attorney's fees that I said that I would take care of that ended up just being double, triple more than what we ever imagined they would
Wow.
be. And I had made this commitment to her, right? So I felt obligated to help her out. And then at the same time, I felt not responsible, that's not the right word, but here, my husband and I, we're two incomes. We both have degrees. We are professionals. So I felt like there's a lot larger of a chance that we could afford this and help her where she doesn't have these things.
Makes
So
sense.
there's no possible way that she could afford this. So who else is going to pay for this for her? We've got to help her, right?
Yeah.
So that ended up being $60,000
Oh wow.
of the 80,000 that I'll tell you about. And when you're paying attorney's fees that quickly in a very short period of time, as well as managing medical things from having children and this car payment. So that car note was about $20,000. So suddenly I find myself with a 2-year-old and a newborn and my mother living in the guest room and $80,000 in debt.
Wow. And in how much time did it go from 0 to 80,000? Do you have a timeline on that approximately?
Yeah. Well, to build up?
Yeah.
All within about 2 to 3 years.
Wow. But it's a lot.
Yes.
I cannot imagine that happening to me.
Absolutely.
Wow. And because how did you manage to kind of pay all the fees? I mean, where did that money come from? Just credit card debt? I mean, you just had an endless pool of money to pinch from?
We did the best we absolutely could, right?
Yeah.
I got 0% cards. We maxed out our credit. Luckily, we started this whole thing with quite a bit of savings and excellent credit. And we just kind of in panic mode, just trying to pay the bills as they came because they were coming so quickly within that 2 to 3 year time period. It was just a lot of panicked bill paying and just doing whatever it took. So we did end up with that 60,000. That was all credit cards, all different credit cards. And it got to the point where I knew this was going to be bad. Right?
Yeah.
You start to feel like this is just not going in the right direction. There's no possible way I could make money this fast in order to pay these things, as well as my own living expenses and daycare for my children and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I started to kind of feel that misalignment. There's no better word for it. We were just completely misaligned with the life we expected and the bills that we were accumulating. And there was definitely a lot of emotion involved. I was going to attorneys' meetings and court dates and also balancing working full time and having these new, young, very, very young children.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of emotional strife happening throughout that short time period. So there's definitely like a rock bottom moment where I just said, you know what? This is not my future. This is not my children's future. I am angry. I am not okay with this.
So you from overwhelmed?
Oh, absolutely.
You became, your feelings changed.
Absolutely.
From overwhelmed to angry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's almost like the grief cycle.
Exactly.
When someone passes away or you go through a large emotional thing like that, you go from being panicked and overwhelmed and feeling like everyone's against you and what am I going to do and I don't know where to turn, to being like, all right, hold up. I'm not okay with this. This is done. This is over. This is not my future. I'm mad. I can't believe this happened. and I'm going to take action. I'm going to fix it.
And was there a specific event that sparked this, or was it just like suddenly one day you woke up and no, this cannot go, I need to take action? Or was it just, did you have a pivotal moment or something?
Absolutely. I will never forget, because it was just, as a mother, it really meant so much to me. So, of course, the stress was building up over time, and I found myself at home on maternity leave, which, of course, that means my income was a little bit cut. Here in the US, you only get 60% of your income for those 6 to 8 weeks that you're home with your new baby. So I'm feeling all this pressure, right?
Yeah.
All this has been building up for months and months. I'm holding my newborn daughter. I'm rocking her in a rocking chair. My son, he's 2 years old. He's so sweet. He's playing on the floor. And there I am crying, just tears running down my face.
Yeah.
And I am doing everything I can possibly do to not start sniffling and making the crying noises.
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't want them to notice. I'm in that moment, I am fearing that my children notice my emotions. As a mother, that's hurtful. That really gets to your heart. And that's the moment, I'm looking at my baby's faces and I'm sitting there thinking, this is ridiculous. I'm hiding my own emotions because of the problems that I've allowed to come into my life. This isn't their fault. This isn't their future. It's not fair to them that they were brought into this household with this level of financial stress. This isn't the picture that I wanted for my children. And from that moment forward, I just said, this is it. This isn't the life that I want for them. And I'm going to do everything I can to create the life that I expect for them to be able to have opportunities.
Awesome.
And I knew that, with that level of debt and that level of financial stress, there was no way that I could provide the opportunity for their lives that I expected.
Yeah.
And so something had to change.
Okay. So this is the revelation, the pivotal moment.
Exactly.
So how did you go from there? What changed? What actions did you take to? Because by then you were $80,000 in debt. It's massive.
It was insane. I still look back and I don't even know how we made it. We had gotten to a point, honestly, where just the minimum payments on our credit cards alone were over $800 a month. So when you're looking at, you have your regular mortgage, you have daycare for 2 children, you have, I mentioned we had a car payment.
Yep.
Luckily, we only had one. A lot of families have 2 car payments.
Yeah.
And then we have like regular utilities and living expenses, and then plus those massive amount of minimum payments due on credit cards. We could not cover everything. So part of the panic was, okay, if I can't pay for something, what am I going to not pay for? Who's not going to receive money this month? What's happened? And we had already cut out everything, right? We had cut our cable. We were not going out to eat. We were doing all of the cutting, budgeting type things that were possible because it had already built over time, right? I had already begun to try to manage things.
Yeah, of course.
And at this point, it was like, all right, who do I got to call? Who is getting the first phone call saying, sorry, you're not getting a payment this month.
Yeah.
How can we work together? And to be honest, we looked at bankruptcy. I learned that you have to pay to file bankruptcy. Clearly, that was not an option.
Okay, so you're in debt, you're already suffering, and then you need to even pay?
Yes, I learned that you have to pay a fee. Plus likely attorney's fees, right? Because you have to go to an attorney to even try to file bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Then you have to apply and be qualified to file bankruptcy. They're going to judge you based on your income and your situation.
So you're applying, okay, like a CV, like whatever, a job. How crazy is
right?
that? Okay.
It was the craziest thing. So that was a learning experience. I didn't
Mhm.
know that. At that point, we couldn't make our payments. So how on earth would I come up with attorney's fees to pay to file for bankruptcy? That just seemed
Mm.
absolutely crazy to me. So we didn't do that. And I decided, there's got to be another way.
Mhm.
We have to choose another option. And I started to think, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to get in this situation again. I don't ever want to have to rely on my credit score ever again.
Mhm.
It's already really bad because, it started out really great. And with the accumulation of this debt and this situation, it had already started to sink. So I'm not so worried about saving my credit score. So if someone is going to have to be pushed off and not get their payment this month, then that's what I have to do. I just had to become okay with just making choices that were best for my family and me, and just really not caring what anybody else thought, whether that be how we look, how we act, what car we drive, who
Mhm.
gets a payment, whatever.
So
So it
the
started.
just sorry to interrupt, but then
Uh-huh.
it looks like in this phase you're still emotional, but it looks
Oh
like
yeah.
the rational is becoming higher than or it's picking up slowly in a way. Like I hear in your story less emotion. I mean, less
Yes.
emotional stress and more like, okay, how am I going to do this? What actions can I take regardless of what people think of who is going to be paid? So no, it's sorry to say, it's interesting to hear. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's interesting for me to look back
yeah, definitely,
with
yeah.
all the knowledge that I have now. It's shocking to me that I was able to do that, to even get into that situation, and then to have to go through these steps to be able to resolve the situation.
Yeah. So how did you manage your daily money, like food expenses? How did you manage, for example, those $800 that how did that happen? Or who did you stop paying?
Yes, great question. So this is where I really consider the beginning of my personal finance journey to have started. Now I'm fully in this 100%. I'm a financial coach. My life has completely changed now. And this is, we're talking about those moments that are at the very beginning. I started to look for resources. I found Dave Ramsey. I found podcasts. I found books. I really started to dig in, and I figured out, you know what? I need to educate myself. I need
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how to strategize, how to prioritize which payment is going to get missed if I
Mm-hmm.
have to do that, which bill I should focus on paying off first. How am I going to do this? I learned about cash budgeting. I learned about the envelope system. And of course, at that point, we were so backwards in the cycle where every penny practically that came into our checking account was already owed to
Yeah.
someone,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So no matter what paycheck we received, our checking account balance was super small. And in order to do a cash budgeting or cash envelope system,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have a little bit of money. So I started calling credit cards. I got them all out. I set them out on the table. I had a yellow notebook pad, and I started dialing numbers. And, this is one of those situations where my emotions at that time and the truth and the real raw desperation that was in my voice actually helped me out. There were several credit card companies that worked with me. I remember one in particular put me on a drastically reduced interest rate,
Oh,
a
wow.
very low, yes, thank goodness,
Yeah.
a very low minimum payment that was due.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me that I think it was 14 months to start to get comfortable with that minimum payment, which,
Mm-hmm.
it went from hundreds of dollars due as a minimum
Mm-hmm.
down to like 40. Big break there.
Absolutely.
And, of course I was so thankful, and I knew, okay, like, yes, if just two more creditors could give me a break like this, then I could have, cash, and I could put them in my envelopes, and I can grocery shop. And then the next time we get a paycheck in, then more money can go to the credit card. And it just started to build this strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so every phone call that I made, now, honestly, I cannot remember how many credit cards we had at that point, but it was at least 10.
Wow, that's impressive. We're not used to this here.
No, and don't be. It's not okay.
I will be already lost. Last year I cut one credit card because I thought, 3 is too much.
Yes.
I'm not going to use this one anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you never want to get to a point where you even have that many open in your name, much less having a maxed out balance on them.
Yeah.
This is not a good idea, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get back to the story.
Yeah.
So you were doing the credit, optimizing your credit card, or starting to to manage better your finances, getting this, not rebates on the interest rate.
Yes.
And this is how you little by little you manage to recover.
Yeah, absolutely. Every single credit card that I called worked with me, except for one. I'm not going to say any names, but I will say they didn't. They couldn't do anything about reducing my payment. They couldn't, couldn't, in quotes here. They couldn't reduce my interest rate. They couldn't work with me, right?
Yeah.
But the person on the other line was very compassionate. And I remember he was very sad. He was like, I can't do any of these things. But what I can do is I understand that you are very tight on money. What I can do is send you a $100 gift card. It's just a gift card that you can use at any store, like a Discover or Visa or something like that. And he told me, I want you to buy groceries for your kids.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry I can't change anything on the account, but I hope that little bit of help will allow you to free up some cash.
But it's still awesome.
Yes. And I remember there again, I'm getting off the phone and I'm crying, not because I'm angry or sad or upset, but that, he did what he could to help me.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like that. Yeah.
I absolutely appreciated that $100. So little by little, every creditor that I called, I was getting either an interest rate reduced, a minimum payment reduced. I was being put on a plan to be able to manage the debt over a much longer period of time where the interest wouldn't accumulate so quickly. And each and every one of those allowed me to have a little bit of extra space to where our minimum payments were suddenly manageable. And so then the next pay period, I did exactly that. And I took out some cash, and maybe it was just $50, right? But we went to the grocery store. We got a few things. We had $10 left over, and we survived the week based on that.
Yep.
At the same time, I got really resourceful. I started looking around the house, finding things that I could sell, that I could clean out. My babies were growing. So every time they grew out of a size of clothes, I bagged it up and I sold it for $50 for a garbage bag full of baby clothes. $50 meant a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And every step of the way, that $50 went into my groceries so that the next paycheck that could come in, it could pay for the credit cards. And just time and time again, that's what we did.
And you still had the same type of job then, both you and your husband?
Yes. So at that time, when I started to have children with my 2-year-old, when I was pregnant with him, I had started a brand new job. And so luckily that job was very consistent. I had 2 maternity leaves with them. They were very good to me through those maternity leaves. And yes, my husband is a teacher and a coach, and his income, thank goodness, is very reliable. And we just plugged away. The difference with these is that I had the potential for bonus. And, as a teacher, he doesn't really have that
exactly.
option.
Yeah, I don't.
So there again, the pressure was on me Not only did I need to clean up this mess, but I had to work because I wanted to qualify for those bonuses so bad, just so that I could make some additional headway on the debt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how did you, during those times where you were kind of recovering bit by bit, how was your entourage doing? I mean, how did they notice? Did they invite you to dinner, or did they invite you less? How did your social circle change or not?
Yes.
How did they react? How did you react?
Yes, that is such a good question. That's honestly a piece that I tend to forget about. So I love that you reminded me about that. We had several friends that we were very honest with.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, you know what? And they could see it happening. They saw my mom living with us, and they saw things going on, and they saw us being really frugal. They could tell that we said no sometimes to going out because we couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the nicest moments are when they said, you know what? We know what's going on. Come anyways. We got you.
Yeah, excellent.
Cover your tab. And to this day, those are some of our best friends because they truly know us. They truly know everything that we went through. There's no hiding. So yes, we definitely went out less. We took our kids out of some activities. My desire for the little babies, we want to go to these little, they call it Gymboree, where they climb over these padded.
Kind of a kindergarten. Playground.
Play.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we wanted to do that stuff. We felt like it was important for their development, but we only did it sometimes because of the cost, because our focus was somewhere else. And we knew if we cleaned up the mess, then for the rest of their lives, we would be able to do whatever. And that those would be the ages where they would have these memories. And so we were able to say, you know what, this stinks, but they're 0 and 2 years old. They're not going to remember this. So this is the perfect time to be frugal, to stay home, to be cheap, and to clean up this mess so that when they do remember, then we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I hereby thanks my parents who took me to all fantastic places during my 0 and 2 years. I don't remember nothing. So no, but it's true. Huh? You make a fair point. It's I'm sure my parents took me to some places and say, oh yeah, he's gonna have so much fun, and that's valid for all children. But yeah, it was a very, very good decision, actually. Yeah.
Yes. So for any parents that are listening out there,
if you're in debt,
yes, if your kids are under 7 years old, they aren't going to remember where you took them.
Yeah.
So use your money to pay off debt and build savings and save it for those trips and the Disney World and all of that for when they're 7 years old and above.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, excellent. Very good, very good. And this journey, and then you paying credit card by credit card, and when did the big the big improvements or the big steps came in, if that came at all, or was it very incremental, or how did the journey continue?
Yes. So it was very incremental and very slow, especially in the beginning when the extra, the extra that you have is only like $20. So you're thinking, okay, great. Well, I got to pay $20 extra on this massive credit card. You don't feel like you're getting anywhere, but you are. And it takes time and it's slow. I will fast forward and let you know that we did the Dave Ramsey plan where they talk about the budget and the debt snowball.
Yeah.
We paid off our smallest debt first. That made sense to us, especially with all the phone calls I had made and with the interest rates being comparable. It made more sense to strategize and pay things the smallest one first. And my car was the $20,000. So that was the single item that was the largest amount.
Sorry, when did you buy your car? So that was at in the early phase of the debt accumulation, right?
Yes. Actually, when my son was newborn, before this whole thing blew up with my mom, when my son was a newborn, we had two paid off older vehicles that we had paid cash for.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that my husband drove overheated one day.
Yeah, it broke
and
down. Mm-hmm.
yes, just actually caught on fire.
Oh, whoa.
On his way, I know, right? On his way to work. He had made it to the babysitter's house, thank goodness. And I remember him, he got my son inside, and I remember him calling me from the babysitter's phone and saying, "The car is outside smoking. What do I do?"
Yeah.
And so, of course, that was before my daughter had come along. And even at that point, we were starting to manage my mom's situation
Mm-hmm.
when my son was a newborn. And so already right then, we didn't have any savings. And the savings that we did have, I could not imagine just spending it down to zero to buy another vehicle for cash.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like that would be enough anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So of course we have these, 0% and all of these enticing options.
Oh yeah,
And
0% the first year, and then it cranks up or something. This kind of deals. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was a hybrid car. So, new models were coming out and they were trying to get rid of the old models, and they did a 0%, and we financed it for, I believe, 5 years, which is a long time for a vehicle.
Okay, so it was a new car, like a brand new from the garage, from the dealership.
Yes, brand new from the dealership. So, of course, around the time that my daughter was born, my car is 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And, we still have that large
Yeah,
balance.
of course, you still have 3 years to pay. Okay.
Exactly.
And just a question here, because why did you go for a new car and not maybe say, oh, look, we already have this situation with my mom and the two kids. Why don't we go for a second-hand beater or something like a 5,000? I don't know. I think you can even get cheaper cars in the US, but like a 5 to 10,000 K.
Yes, exactly. Such a good question. And that is where I really just think it's financial education. I think it's the fear that's marketed
Mm-hmm.
to us that if you get an older vehicle, it's going to break down on you and it's not going to be reliable. And, maybe if you have a couple thousand in savings and you go and you spend it to zero because you're buying a $2,000 car,
Mm-hmm.
that, a few weeks from now, it's going to break down and you're going to be screwed. So that fear as a new parent,
Mm-hmm.
and we're already in a bad situation. So we're thinking, okay, we can't afford car repairs. And so let's just get something that's really reliable and brand new so that if something happens, the dealership has to fix it.
Yeah, and I can imagine. I mean, I haven't been in the situation, but okay, there's a lack of financial education. There's already a lot of emotions for everything. You have two newborns, and then you have this car breaking down, and with kids, you need a car. So I can imagine that, all this together, okay, you don't take the most rational decision. I mean, it's we're humans.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
and maybe even with financial education, you would still make a stupid decision or, so in that case, it would be stupid. In your case, it's not because, okay, you were not. But I mean, you still make irrational decision in those situations where your emotions takes over. I mean, it's just human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I, of course, fast forward to now, I never want to buy a new car again because I am more aware of how to manage and just the thought process, right?
Mm-hmm.
You sign up for a brand new vehicle, you're obligated to a $500 value car payment each month.
Yeah.
Okay, so the rationale is that you can afford that, even though you've never been able to save $500 a month in your life. That doesn't make sense. But, on the flip side, if you had bought a cheaper car and you didn't have that $500 obligation each month,
Mm-hmm.
and something did break down, maybe, it's a $200 repair. Okay, well, $200 in 1 month is a lot less than a $500
Recurrent
obligation.
obligation. Yeah.
Yes. And I just didn't have that logic at that time. And yeah, it was a lot about emotions and fear and um, lack of knowledge, honestly, about vehicles, about finance, about my emotions, about everything.
Okay. Yeah, but it's yeah, and I think you're not the only one, so that's why we are doing this. We are sharing this and not judging or anything. It's just how it is. And then, so fast forward, you paid down those $80,000.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How did you feel the day you paid that last dollar?
Gosh, I didn't believe it. I'll tell you that.
And how long did it take you to get from minus 80 to zero?
So that was right at 3 years. It was just before my son's 5th birthday. So the car, from the date that we financed it and then accumulated all this debt and then paid off all the credit cards first, of course, because they were smaller. And then you finally get to that that car note, and it ended up being paid off like 2 to 3 months before the final payment would have been due. And so the
time, awesome.
The timing was just crazy. And it was one of those things where as we built up steam and we were doing the snowball, each time you pay off something, then the money that you were paying gets allocated to the next thing. And so it builds and builds and builds. And so by the time I'm ready to just focus on the only debt that we have left is just the vehicle, I'm able to make double and triple payments. I mean, it was amazing. And that alone, I never thought was possible. And of course, this whole time I'm learning about personal finance. I'm reading books, listening to podcasts, and I've just learned so much at that point. And so when I paid it off, it's just astonishing. You just can't even believe it because you've been working on this thing and this idea for 3 years, 5 years, depending on how far you want to go back and say the beginning of the journey was. And truly, I've heard this out there and I didn't understand it until I experienced it. But we all live life, the majority of Americans live life assuming that you'll always have a car payment. You'll always owe money. You'll always have a house payment.
You'll always have, the mortgage. And I think at least in Europe, I think the mortgage is, I mean, maybe not the car, but at least the mortgage is like, it's logic. Yeah, everybody has a mortgage. I mean, I speak from what I know. I mean, like where I lived in Norway, in Luxembourg, it's normal.
Yes.
In Belgium, I mean, I have a house. Yeah, of course, you have a few hundreds, a few thousands, I don't know. It's normal.
Yes. And you just can't picture a life without those things. And so as you edge closer to that goal, you start to believe and think and be able to see outside the box where, oh my gosh, what would my life be like if I didn't have any payments? How much money could I have to myself if I didn't owe it? And those thoughts just never occurred to me before that time. And so when I finally paid off the car, I mean, it took me a couple of months to just believe that we had paid everything.
And maybe realize it because it's like, hey, where did those payments go? Nobody knocks at the door. I have all this money left in my account at the end of the month or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
It's fantastic.
Such a relief, such a moment to be remembered. And of course, the biggest moment is when you check the mail and you receive that clean, clear, brand new title with your name on it, and your car is yours.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was amazing.
Wow. So what an impressive story. I mean, I'm very impressed that you kept on. That you kept the drive to get out of the situation for like in 3 years long, maybe a bit longer, just a bit shorter. But it's 3 years focusing on one goal. I mean, how difficult must have that been? Yeah?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't have done it for sure without
Mm-hmm.
the support of our friends. Like I said, the
Mm-hmm.
people that would say, it's okay. We still want to see you. Can we just come over? Instead of making us feel bad that we couldn't go
Yeah,
out.
yeah. We're going to the restaurant. Yeah, okay, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And because there were plenty of things that we said no to that we couldn't go to because we didn't have the money. And
Mm-hmm.
and that sounds very negative, right? Like I'm all about abundance now. And so you always want to say it's not that we don't have the money, it's that we're allocating it somewhere else.
Yeah, we choosing to do something else. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
yes. But at that
Mm-hmm.
time, I mean, we felt poor. And that was hard because you go to work every day. We're both, like I said, we're degreed professionals, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone around you is dressed up, got new jewelry, going to get their nails done, going out to
I
eat
had
for
a nice
lunch.
weekend with whatever shopping or
Yeah,
yeah, of course, partying or dinners. Yeah,
yes, all the happy hours and all of.
yeah,
And here we are, like, no, not today, not today, not today. But you say not today for 3 years, and it really wears on you. Um,
yeah.
so my husband and I, luckily, we're a very good balance. And when I'm upset, he's on cloud nine. And
Mm.
when he's upset, I'm on cloud nine. So we tend to balance each other out really well.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm so thankful for that. But there were definitely moments where I was upset about it and kind of hurt that this had happened. And there were many moments where I felt like my mom just didn't understand what we had done for her and how
mm.
much I had put my own family, my babies, at risk for her.
Mm-hmm.
And a large piece that started to work on me that still is very important to me is that I don't think children should have to be responsible for their parents or for, even if it's like medical care or whatever. My goal now in my life is to set things up to where my kids are never going to have to take care of me. I don't want them to pay for medical bills. I don't want them to pay for
Mm-hmm.
fees or, just any of this stuff that I had to go through.
Don't feel poor or don't yeah, not be in that situation. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You want yeah, okay, yeah, but that's
Exactly.
I understand, and it's even stronger with people like you.
Yes, yes.
So that's the thing. Yeah, I think that's every parent's wish. But then for you, you even want to fight more for
Oh,
that.
yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and even
I
if
can see
even
that.
if someone's listening that doesn't have kids,
Mm-hmm.
you never want to put your life in someone else's hands, right? You
Yeah, definitely
would
not.
ideally set things up so that your medical issues or whatever you need that's going on in your
Mm-hmm.
life as you get older, that you have planned well and that no one else becomes responsible for you. And facing that firsthand, yeah, I venture to say that even if I didn't have kids, I would still feel this way because of the way that it affected my life.
Yeah, I understand absolutely. Wow. Well. Thanks, Virginia. I mean, I just will end with just a last question because this is something I'm passionate about. Thank you for sharing the story. It's very impressive, and thank you for being so open about it. I think it will really help people listening.
Absolutely.
I just want to end with one question. Is because I'm really into habits and stuff, and I just wanted to understand or know maybe during those 3 years you developed some financial habits or savings or because yeah you had to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still keep those a few of those habits that you had before, or do you clip coupons or look for rebates? I don't know if you how do you yeah which habit have you taken, which situations or habits didn't you take with you in your abundance life?
Yes. I love that. Thank you. Habits are so important. Yes. So I still use cash envelopes.
Oh
We
yeah.
still do our budgeting online. I use
Mm-hmm.
Mint and YNAB. I love those programs. And I teach personal finance all the time. And so not just my own experience, but things that I've learned from the women that I've talked to that have gone through the same thing or that are going through the same thing have showed me the power of taking those emotions that I felt, that I shared with you, and using them as drive. And so anytime something makes me upset, or I tend to feel those emotions bubbling up inside, I am very thoughtful and I plan well. That's kind of my forte. I'm a really good planner, which is also why I was able to strategize and get out of that debt.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I really sit with it, and I really think about how that emotion can fuel the fire to get me to where I want to go. And so this has been useful, of course, for our personal finances. This has been useful for my marriage, my kids, my business, so many things. But yes, the cash budgeting has been huge. And then just paying attention, right? Just being aware and not making choices that are going to throw you out of alignment with what you actually want. If you expect to be able to spend a certain amount that you've planned for, don't make a decision that is going to wreck that plan. Stick to the plan.
Stick to it.
Yes, you're going to feel good when you stick to it. You're going to enjoy that feeling of success when you check those numbers and they all match, or you're under budget, right? There's a little celebration there. And I learned what that felt like. And that was very different from the way that I had felt previously. And so I started to kind of vibe off of that success and build upon it and learn to use those emotions and breed further success. And I still practice a lot of that today.
Awesome. Excellent. I mean, I'm very impressed. And I'm very thankful that you took the time to share your story on the show. Actually, Virginia, the last bit here, you kind of introduced the next part, because I wanted to ask you, what are you doing today, actually? So you started up a company this summer or just before the summer, and can you tell us a bit about that, and how can people reach you if they want if they want to get in touch with you or hear more from you? How can they do that?
All right. Well, okay. So first, let me say thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me share my story. I do think that it's a very lonely journey sometimes when you are feeling like you're drowning in debt. And that's how I felt. And that's why I've completely converted over, and now I'm doing this full time. You're right. I did launch my website in the midst of my financial journey, really towards the end, because I launched it about a year ago. It's happyhealthyabundance.net. And so I'm on Facebook. I am Virginia Elder. I'm on Instagram at Happy Healthy Abundance. And I'm financial coaching. And I help women who are in that exact situation where I came from, where they're struggling with debt and they want to build savings and they just don't really know where to start.
That's really powerful. Like taking your own situation and taking the lessons you learn and help others. That's amazing. Yeah. I really love that.
Thank you.
And of course, for the listeners, I will link all the Virginia's contact details and socials in the show notes. Fantastic. So once again, do you have a last word maybe to say for, let's say, maybe there's listeners who are in debt of 10K, 15K. Do you have any last words for them of encouragement or, whatever? I'll leave you the
Yeah, I mean, definitely encouragement, right? If I'll share with you that during our time when we were struggling to pay off debt, we had $80,000 in debt. Our combined income was not over $100,000. So if you're looking at any level of debt that's 80%, 70%, 50% of your income value, it's hard. It's crushing. It could be depressing. But we did it, and we had young children, and we had lots of things that came our way that we didn't expect, and we did it. It took consistency and focus, lots of focus and lots of sleepless nights, but We made it through.
I can imagine.
We made it through. And that's just one of those things, we do live in an abundant world and it's all around us. But at that time in my life, I didn't choose to see it. I didn't choose to see how I could make my life abundant.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, when you focus on what you want, that's how you're going to get there.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So these were excellent tips. And Virginia, thank you again. And of course, we need to meet at FinCon. It's in less than a month now.
Yes,
So.
That's so exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. So thank you again and have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
What a story, hey? I'm still very impressed, I must say, by Virginia's courage, determination that she had for 3 years to go from minus 80 to 0. Impressive, very impressive. Anyway, just before closing the show, just wanted to circle back to the debt snowball method that she mentions. Yeah, this is a debt reduction method where in case you have several debt on several accounts, for example, the 10 credit cards she had, this is where you prioritize paying the account with the smallest balance first, while making minimum payment to the other accounts. What this does is that it makes you pay balances faster. I mean, small balances faster, so that you knock down each and every card one by one. So like Virginia had 10 cards, so I suppose that little by little she got 9, 8, 7, 6 credit card balances to pay. So little by little she reduces the amount of bills you get. So it's very encouraging, an encouraging method, because you see the positive effect straight away. And that pushes you to continue until you have no more debt left. And then you can start to live again. And with that said, I would like to thank you again for listening to the show. I hope you find it interesting and useful, and that you find inspiration to take action in case you're in debt. And as a last note, please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions, any feedback. Can be reached via email, john@johnnytalks.com, or you can of course reach out through a social media account. I'm on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram @JohnnyTalks. I will wish you a fantastic day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.